We got some really nice timber that we're going to use here, and so we're going to run through all the different processes as we require to make the project now today. Okay, so our Workcentre, as you see it over here, I've mounted a Triton handheld circular saw onto here. But the beauty of the Workcentre is you can mount any handheld circular saw. As long as it's got a complete base, and you'll see when I flip it over later into cross-cut mode, you can fit a Bosch, you can fit a Ryobi, a Hitachi, Makita, okay? You can fit any other brand of circular saw, and what's great is if you're already in possession of a circular saw, you're halfway there. Because all you do is fit your saw into here and you're going to be able to use it in all the functions that I'm going to show you now today. The Triton saw, however, when I turn it over, I'll show you a couple of the features. It's really an immaculate saw to be able to use in conjunction with the Triton Workcentre. Okay, so what I've done there now, this is an accessory called the height winder kit. I'll show it to you also a little bit later and show you how it works. But the height winder has got nothing to do with the Triton saw. It works in conjunction with any other circular saw. And what it does, it allows the entire chassis that the saw is mounted to pivot. Okay, and that makes it very simple and easy now for you to raise and lower the height of the blade. And you're going to be doing that quite a few times because it's first of all safer to have less blades sticking out. And obviously it's going to give you a slightly neater cut because the blade has more of a slicing action rather than a chopping action. Okay, so that's why you're wanting to lower the blade. And as a rule of thumb, you're wanting to have 3 to 4 teeth of the blade sticking out. Okay, and then you know you've set your blade pretty much to the right height. Okay, so we're going to be doing this a little bit different in that I'm going to be showing you a number of the accessories before I show you the core product. So the core product being the Workcentre or the router table that we'll use a bit later. But the Maxi extension table is a fantastic accessory that you're able to add to the Workcentre to be able to get bigger capacities. Okay, and on this sliding extension table, you now have a crosscut capacity, okay, of sort of 1.2 meters from the blade. So I guess that's about 4 foot, is that right? Around about there. And the same applies in your rip cut capacity. So all you do is you lock the frame like that so it doesn't move anymore. Lock it in the front as well. And then you can swing this entire fence right the way around and use it as a ripping fence. Okay. And obviously it's calibrated so you can take your measurements directly off the extension table and cut the size as you require. You can also achieve a wide variety of different angle cuts. So by setting your fence to a variety of angles, say you want to cut a beautiful mitre in a post form top, that's achievable now by setting your fence to the required angle that you want. Okay, and you do that in conjunction with your mitre slide that's at the front of the Workcentre there. Okay, so we're going to be using it as a crosscut table or a mini panel saw if you like. All we do, we're going to lock that straight in the front and likewise over there. And I'm going to cut some of my components that are required to length. So I need, for the basic box construction, we need four different lengths that we're going to be using now. We need 2 pieces of 140 millimeters wide by 1.2, and then we need 1 piece of 860 by 180 millimeters, and then a very small piece out of 120 millimeters, okay, of which we'll get various different sections out for our handles, partitions, etc. Okay, so the pieces that I'm going to use, these 2 over here, I'm actually going to cut my long sides out of them already as well. So we're going to use this and we're going to cut these to 900 millimeters. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I've got a rough cut edge over there. I just want to square that off so that when we use it later on the finger jointer, we've got a nice square surface to be able to join up against. Okay, and so this is going to be one of my long sides, and that's cut at 900 millimeters. So it's very quick and easy. I just set it up to the measurement there that we require, and we can do the cut. Okay, so that's going to be one side of the box. We'll get to the smaller side shortly. I think it's that one there. There we go. Okay, let's just cut this square as well. So there, very quickly, there's the two long sides of the box. Okay, we'll cut our short sides a little bit later on. This is for the base of the box. Because the base is biscuit jointed underneath into the sides, it's the thickness of the wood shorter on both sides. So we're going to cut this down to 860 millimeters. There we go. Okay, here we go. The smaller pieces here out of the 120, I'm going to cut a little bit later, but before I'm just going to cut that nice and square while we've got it set up here as a panel saw. Okay. So I'm sure you'll agree with me that the extension table really makes it easier for you to handle longer lengths of timber. So you can take a full board here and cut it with great ease across your work center. But my favorite part of this entire extension table is the fact that you don't require a massive work area to be able to use it in, first of all, but you also don't need a huge area to store it in. Because very quickly, all you do, that pops off just like that. And it stores, very compact out the way. This detaches off the work center. At home, I hang mine on the wall, and it's out the way. Okay, so if you had to buy a machine with a similar capacity, you'd need a forklift to park it in your workshop. Okay, here you add it on with the greatest of ease, no trouble whatsoever. Okay, so we're going to pull this out a bit. What I'm going to do now, this is the standard fence that comes with the Triton Workcentre, and what it is, it's calibrated from 0, so you can then take it out right up to 620 millimeters from the blade. So you've got really good capacity with which you can use here. So that's great for things like built-in cupboards, kitchen cupboards. Okay, good shelf size to be able to use at 600. What I need to do now, we're going to start at 180 millimeters. And I'm just going to cut to width the base that we've now cut to length over there. So we just set this here to 180. Okay, and we're going to be able to cut. Let's have a look. Let's take the best edge. Let's take that edge off over there. Okay, great, there's our base. Something that you may notice, that offcut is held there underneath that guard. And what that does is it makes a great deal of difference to the safety. So not only is it preventing the saw from pulling the wood back, but it's actually holding that offcut there until you're ready to take it out. There's two little pressure fingers underneath here which actually hold the wood down onto the table and prevent kickback. Okay, and works exceptionally well. The next pieces that I'm going to cut are at 140 millimeters. And we'll do probably 3 cuts here. First to cut the long sides, and then to cut the piece that we require for our short sides. So these are our long sides. We're going to run these through quickly, and then we'll do the shorts. Okay, I just want to quickly measure off to see that we've got enough here. Okay. There we go. This is now going to be for the short side of the box, which will come and cut later in cross-cut mode. But obviously it needs to be 140 millimeters wide. Okay, so that's now our long and short sides. The last piece that I want to make sure we rip to width correctly is this piece of, it should be 120 millimeters wide. So we'll move that guard slightly further up again. And we're just going to set our fence here to 120 and do the cut. So having a fence that's calibrated to the saw blade makes it so quick and easy to be able to translate your measurements that you require onto your piece of wood. I don't have to sit here with a tape measure measuring from my fence to my blade. It's very quick. You set your fence, it locks on both sides. You've got a very rigid fence. There's no movement between the fence and the blade. And so if you've calibrated it correctly, you should have a perfect cut every single time. Okay, so let's do this one. I might need just a bit forward. There we go. Looks like this is already, yeah, just below 120. Okay, so we're not going to take much off here. So we're just going to push that all the way through. Okay, so we'll come back to that now shortly. Something I'd like to show you very quickly is how to cut a narrower strip of wood. I just want to see if I've got one. I had one here earlier, but it seems like it's gone. So let me cut a narrower strip of wood for you quickly. So I'm going to cut a piece of wood at 50 mils. You know, when you're cutting larger pieces of timber, you know, a board, a sheet, pieces that we've been cutting now, it's pretty simple and easy to keep your fingers safely away from the blade. But the trouble comes in is when you want to cut smaller pieces of wood. How do you handle them? Okay. Well, I'm going to cut this piece up here quickly. This is still too big. Okay, so we're just going to cut this piece a bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so here we've got a narrow strip. Okay, how are we going to cut this? Well, with the Workcentre you have on your mitre slides, you have a little sideward pressure finger over here. Okay, and we're going to use this now just to have complete control in doing this cut. You can use it on multiple sides here. We're going to flip it over to the opposite end. Okay, there we go. That just slides in the table. Obviously you can use your mitre slide to do all your various different angle cuts that you would want to do. But that now just applies sideward pressure up against the fence. We lock that off there, and then we lock the slide to the table. So it can no longer slide, but now it acts as a great sideward pressure finger, putting that up against the fence. So this was previously cut at 50 mils. We're going to just move the fence in by 5 millimeters. Okay. And so we're going to set it here to 45 millimeters. And now we're going to use this to, in a very controlled fashion, cut the piece of wood. Okay. Notice this little captive push stick. Okay. Can't come off the fence at all. It slides in the fence. So you've got complete control. You don't have to run your fingers down the fence. You can just push the wood through with complete control and comfort. Okay, so not only is your piece correctly sized to the dimension that you want, but if your machine wasn't cutting accurate, you wouldn't be able to cut such a small piece of offcut like that. Okay, So in a very controlled fashion, you're able to cut and manage smaller pieces of wood, no problem whatsoever. Okay, so I'm sure you'll be impressed. That's a pretty good table saw. Okay, you've got features on there that only come with really big pieces of equipment, and this will allow you to do rip and smaller cross cuts with really good results. So what we're going to do now is we're going to now take our Workcentre and we're going to convert it to a crosscut saw. Okay, there we go. Now remember I spoke to you about the height winder earlier? Well, through the table you put through this key into that little slot there, and this allows you to adjust the height of the saw. So nothing to do with a circular saw, but just is the height winder moving up and down. Okay, and then we flip the saw over. It flips over just like that. And this table over here just goes straight in, just like that. Very quick and easy. So, why do we need two different modes for the Workcentre? Well, a rip saw is great for taking long lengths of wood and cutting them to width. Okay, but it's pretty cumbersome to take a long length of wood and trying to cut it to length over a table saw. And where now as a crosscut saw, it's really simple and easy. The wood is stationary, the machine is moving. Unlike the table saw where the machine is stationary and the wood is moving. So it's just really application and ease of use that make the difference. Okay, so we're going to be doing some cross-cutting here now. So I thought I'd take a chance and just, or a few seconds, and just look at the Triton saw as it is. A good quality circular saw, if you're looking to buy a good quality circular saw, what is the first thing you'd look for? What's the first obvious thing? Power, yeah. A lot of people look at the power because obviously if it's got a good power rating, it's probably a good motor that's running in there, okay? Yes. Depth of cut, because obviously if you're working it, you want to do a job specific. For me, one of the most important things in a circular saw is it giving me a rigid cut, okay? Because power and depth of cut mean nothing if my saw blade is wandering and doing all sorts of other things. The rigidity of the Triton saw really comes from the base. And just as a rule of thumb, you can tell if a saw is a good quality machine by just very quickly looking at the base. Cheaper saws will have just a standard press metal base. The Triton saw has a die-cast aluminium base, making it incredibly rigid. Okay, there's very little movement in the machine whatsoever. And it's got all those other things as well. It's got the power, okay, it's got a great depth of cut as a 9¼ inch circular saw. But Triton thought they would really make it simple for you to be able to mount this onto the Workcentre. You saw how easy it was for me to cut at different dimensions in table saw mode. Now to do that, you need to calibrate the saw to the machine. And that's like any other table saw. I mean, any other table saw, you have to calibrate your fence. You have to calibrate the squareness to the table. All those features are built into a standard table saw. So there's nothing sort of new there, okay? But what they've done is they've put in a cam, front and back, which allows you just to, with greater ease, just to do the alignment of the circular saw up against your fence. And so that was a great feature that makes the Triton saw really ideal for mounting onto the Triton Workcentre. They've also included some things that I love to do. One of them is that you have preset angles. So you have a preset angle at 45 degrees, 30 degrees, 22.5, 15, and back to 0. Okay. So if you want to do repetitive cutting at various different angles, you don't have to sit and guess from a dial. You don't even have to look. You can just, there we go, 45 degrees, done. Lock front and back, and you're ready to carry on. So it makes it really simple and easy to be able to use. The other thing is, because of the nature of a circular saw, because you've got the motor perpendicular to the blade, okay, so they're running like that, there's no counterbalance on the other side of the blade. So it's gravity naturally pulls the blade over like that, okay. So what Triton have brought in here, this is called a blade angle trimmer, and this allows you to actually adjust the blade so that it is exactly square with your table, okay. And then you're able to get basically compensate for that that offset that you get from or they call it saw slump, for the saw slump that you get from your motor. And Fantastic, easy way of doing it. Other saws, most saws all have the facility to do that, but usually it's a little bit more cumbersome. You've got something like a little grub screw that you've got to advance or screw in tighter so that it can travel further. Triton have made it really simple to be able to take away any saw slump that you may have. Triton have made it really simple to be able to take away any saw slump that you may have. So a fantastic saw for mounting, a fantastic saw in its own right as a handheld machine. Okay, so we're going to be using it now here in crosscut mode, and we're going to cut to